Good to be with you on this Wednesday, and today I would like to look at where conflict really comes from. We're seeing it everywhere, of course, and we have throughout history, but it gets right down to what goes on in our own lives. James chapter 4 speaks about that. Where do wars and fightings come from? Well, they come from the desires that war in our own hearts. And here in 1 Peter chapter 2, we read in verse 11, "Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against your souls, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify God in the day of visitation." Now there's a lot in this passage, but let me just pull out a couple of things quickly here today. First of all, we are strangers and pilgrims in this land. Our citizenship is in heaven. So we need to regularly remind ourselves that we are never going to fit in perfectly because we don't want to. We're not part of this world. Satan controls the culture of this world. But we need to realize that what will stop us from having an impact in this world are the fleshly lusts that war against our own selves, our own souls. We have the flesh, but thank the Lord, if we're saved, we have a regenerated spirit and the indwelling third person of the Trinity in us. And even though that war is intense, it's not an equal war. When we yield to God, we can have victory every time. And so we must have victory, and here's the reason why. In verse 12, our conversation needs to be upright among the lost world, so that when they speak against our Christianity, they can see our transformed life and our good works, which they'll behold, and glorify God when God visits them. This isn't speaking of the future visitation. This is speaking of a very real present visitation. God has promised that the Holy Spirit would convict of sin, righteousness, and judgment. So let me put this together. We need to realize that, yes, we're strangers in this world, but the big battle is in us. We're always going to be spoken against because we're Christ's own people. And so there's a war against believers. But the war that must be won is in us, and so that we don't allow the flesh to have the upper hand, which means then that we can be a testimony to the lost world as they're endeavoring to oppose us. They can't deny the fact that there is a transformation that's taken place. There's a reality in our life, and that when God convicts them, they have a reality there because of our testimony that is a handle for which the Holy Spirit can use to go deep within their hearts. For instance, in an extended family you're trying to reach, if you've had the love of God, if you've been living consistently, if your family is exemplary, your spirit is right, they may mock your Christianity. But when God, in answer to your prayer, convicts them, well, your testimony will go a long way as a tool for the Holy Spirit to use to go deep within their heart to bring them to Christ, and they'll glorify God. It's the same way in our community. They may mock a Bible-believing church, but if that church is seeing drug addicts saved and transformed, that church is being a blessing to a lot of people, even if they don't like the testimony or the word that we preach, they cannot deny the reality of the lives that we live. And so this is, to me, a very important concept for us in this day. Today, let's live for God. Let's let our good work shine forth. Let's be a tool of conviction to the community around us. Let's not try to fit in. Let's win the battle by the grace of God over the flesh, so that we can let the light of the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ shine through us.